Welcome to Analyzing the 1%. Today we're going to talk about solution to this world crisis that we're in depth, very real, practical, scientific solution that each one of us can participate in. My name is Gilbert Gambucci, and I am from Stop the Destruction of the World Association. And as you may be hopefully realizing, we have a serious problem with what some people call a global corporate dictatorship. We at Occupy call them the 1%, the economically powerful people. I tend to call them the Rockefeller-Rothschild regime. These international bankers, together with Warburg, Harriman, the Schiffs, Morgan, Carnegie, these international bankers who have organized themselves against humanity. And notice that they control the energy of the planet. You know, the Rockefellers control petroleum. Morgan controls electricity. And so what is the solution to this situation? Because as I've been showing on our this program, Analyzing the 1%, these people, they're not only unethical and corrupt and ill-intentioned and inept, they are very mentally imbalanced. This is the question that we need to perceive better. And fortunately, nowadays people are noticing, they know the difference between democracy and capitalism. For years, people just kind of mixed the two together like they were one and the same thing. But democracy is a political system, and capitalism is an economic system. And in fact, one tends to be juxtaposed to the other in many points. And so the Constitution of the United States is the admiration of the world in terms of a political document as to how to secure liberty for a people. What our founding fathers did in the United States was something really exceptional in the history of mankind. However, this group of economically powerful people, the 1%, they have dominated our political system. And so this is why we are not experiencing the liberty, the democracy that we used to have in the United States. It's not that what the founding fathers laid out for us is not working. It's that we have not upheld the Constitution of the United States. It's being dominated by a group of multi-billionaire, mentally imbalanced people. So what can we do about this situation? It's not to replace the democracy that we've had. It's to dislodge those who are controlling our democracy. It's in the economic sector. And so we see people trying to create as a solution to bring in Marxism or socialism. If you socialize all sectors of society, that's called communism. It's basically the same thing. And it simply doesn't work. Throughout history, we see that it doesn't work. Not that there are some elements in Marxism that are correct. In the same way, there are some elements in capitalism that are correct. For example, capitalism stimulates self-initiative, but it's highly exploitative. In socialism, you work for the common good, which is a positive point. At the same time, it creates apathy, a negative point. So what you have to do is accumulate the good aspects of each system and disregard and not use the pathology of the system, the erroneous things, the things that are not in benefit to humanity, in order to create a third way. I don't know why people can't think of the possibility that there is a third way. There's not just two options, either capitalism or socialism. Of course not. Both of these systems are highly pathological. We need to form a new system. Many people in the earlier days of Occupy, there were many of the younger people who were kind of enthusiastic about a form of anarchism. Has a fancy name, you know, a non-hierarchical direct democracy, whereby each person has a voice. Whether you are kind of an imbalanced person or whether you don't know what you're talking about, everybody has a same equal voice. And what is interesting about Americans is that we put everything in practice to see how it works out. And what happened was people just began to realize that this direct democracy type of thing, this form of anarchy, people were suffering from burnout, spinning the wheels in these meetings, getting nowhere. And it's so easy for a person to enter into one of these meetings and shut it down. Either somebody from CIA or really a mentally disturbed person who comes into the meetings and shut it down. It's so easy to dominate anarchy. So we just perceive that it doesn't work. And so that's not a solution. We see some people talking about, in relation to the energy crises, these micro-sized nuclear reactors that can be put in each apartment. My goodness, that's exactly the opposite direction that we need to go in, polluting the planet even more. The powerful people are really mentally ill. They really don't know what they're talking about. One of the people that I really admire is Alex Jones. He brings us a lot of data, important information that we need to know about. However, his solution to take up arms against the biggest military buildup in the history of the planet, oh, come on. Is that a solution? We have to be very careful about what we're doing. And there's nothing more that the economically powerful would like than to see Americans rise up in an armament battle against this military. They would love to slaughter us off. They have an interest in depopulating the planet. And this would be just an open excuse for them to kill as many people as possible. This is not a solution to take up arms against the American military, which the powerful dominate. They run the military. Has nothing to do with our political system anymore. The President of the United States is not Commander-in-Chief of the American Armed Forces. I hope that you realize that by now. That's not our subject for today. What I would like to bring up is our solution. We need to build a parallel economy that excludes the multinationals from our lives. And this is, it's not difficult to do this. We just have to be willing to work for ourselves, And in fact, we even have solutions, very real concrete solutions into how to do this. When I say we, I'm talking about the Stop the Destruction of the World Association. And in fact, we have invented an energy device, a motor, that captures the energy from the air that Nikola Tesla referred to as scalar energy. We have this device. We're manufacturing it already. And in fact, Sterling Allan, who is a journalist, who's an expert in what he calls exotic energy, he goes around the world checking things out, inventions that people come up with, because of course the mainstream media doesn't show anything. Mainstream media is the public relations department of the 1%. And he recently came to visit us here in Brazil, where I am currently, at the Keppe Motor Production Center. We don't call it a factory because it's not a capitalist sweatbox. We own the place, so it's our own lifestyle, it's our own work. And he got really fascinated with the Keppe motor, this new energy device, so that we can get ourselves out from under the Rockefeller-Rothschild regime, and how to work collectively together, how to do this in practice, how to set up our own little operations, because we have a way whereby this device will not get into the hands of the multinationals so that they can exploit humanity with it, although it's impossible to exploit others with this motor because it's a free energy device. And I would like for us to see a little interview that Sterling Allan did. He has an excellent site, by the way, if you want to know all the types of free energy devices, or not necessarily free energy, but alternative energy devices, more economic devices, all kinds of things. His site is the best. He gets the most hits, his site, in an energy type of site than anyone else. He really knows what he's talking about. He's an interesting guy. It's called Pure Energy Systems Network. That's PESN.com. You can visit his site anytime you like. And you'll see there many things he's written about the Keppe motor. It's a motor that has been invented by the social scientist, psychoanalyst, Norberto Keppe, together with a few of my colleagues working on this. And let's see this interview at this time of Sterling Allan talking a bit about the Keppe motor. Can we run this?
Hi, I'm Sterling Allan from Pure Energy Systems News, online at PESN.com. Today I am at the Keppe Motor Group production facility in Gambucci, Brazil. I have been traveling around for 11 years to find something along these lines. And finally, we have a clean energy technology of the exotic sort, which is my specialty, that is ready to go to production. Even the most efficient small motors, 1/3 the electricity. That's what we're talking about here. Because we're using some super simple technologies that you could do. You could build this motor, but this isn't a story about just the Keppe Motor Group. This is a story about you, whoever's listening to this, wherever you live on the planet. You need technology like this, not just for fans, but you also have an opportunity to go into business, to build a company like they have here. You can do this. You can create a company around this motor technology to get a group of people together that not only enjoy clean energy, but enjoy working together. In this case, people have come from all over the world to make this company get to this point. They've been at this for 20 years, developing this consciousness of how do we work together and not eat each other up. You can do this. So today as we go on a tour of the Keppe motor, think about not, oh, that's cool what they're doing. Think about, I can do this too. We can make something like this. That's what this is about. With that introduction, I just wanted to let you know that this is not about technology. This isn't about building a motor that you can sell and make a living. This is about enjoying the people that you work with and getting back to the handcrafted, local society, local community built things that you are happy to buy because you're supporting the local community. That's what you're doing here when you replicate what they're doing here, whether it's building fans or whatever it is you need in your local situation.
Because society is inverted. It's upside down. Nowadays, our civilization places primary importance on questions of finance, economy, commercial trade. And questions, artistic, cultural, scientific questions are relegated to a secondary plane. When in fact it should be a real civilization, it's just the opposite. You know, questions of economy and finance are a result of civilization. Okay? So I have an opportunity during the day to work here at the Keppe Motor with aesthetic questions, you know. And what I love about working here is the fact that this new energy source, we see clearly that it's very capable of replacing these industrial magnates who control the petroleum and electricity, the multinational exploiters of humanity. And so this invention, we have a way whereby this will not get into their hands. This invention is for us, because what they did with the Industrial Revolution, through the ideas of Adam Smith, they've taken the Industrial Revolution to their benefit and more or less enslaved us, you know, placed us in service to their profits. And this, we believe, is the real industrial revolution for the people, for those of us who are working with the items, okay? And so for me, this is fundamental. This is the beautiful aspect of this.
Let's also get into this whole thing about the idea that came before this motor, the 40 years that Norberto Keppe and Claudia have been involved in this, the trilogy, the science of the internal personality and how you get people to work through their problems both individually and as a group, and how that was actually used, those principles were used to build this motor. And it could be used for other scientific principles as well. If you could address that.
Yes, well, basically, this is a new physics that is coming from what we call a disinverted metaphysics. Do you know the Philadelphia Project? This disaster that took place with the United States military people? In the end, their conclusion was that they didn't have a sufficient knowledge of metaphysics in order to treat physics in a correct way, in a way that worked. And Norberto Keppe corrected the field of metaphysics. So this brings a new physics in an entirely different way. So this motor, as Cezar can explain much better, it works in a completely different premises. And we've been working with what we call trilogical enterprise for years now, since around 84, 85, when Dr. Keppe worked in New York. And basically it's a structure whereby no one exploits and no one is exploited. That's the basic principle involved. And it's scientifically founded. It's neither socialism nor capitalism. It's neither one of the two. It's a new way of working whereby the pathology of the human being is controlled so that his qualities and his gifts can flourish. Nowadays we see in society what happens is exactly the opposite. The powerful, they want to control our qualities, to control what we have to offer to humanity in order for humanity to benefit, and stimulate the pathology. You know, they stimulate the consumerism and all kinds of crazy things to buy. And we see that what needs to be done is exactly the opposite. We need to become more aware of what is pathology. Personal, individual pathology and social pathology. What is it exactly? To identify it so that the good can flourish. Basically, it's this.
And this is kind of the synopsis or the grand finale of this project that I want you to get excited about, because it's not about building a motor. It's about building a community, building a new world.
Okay, so here we go.
Okay.
You know, this way of organizing companies that we call the trilogical enterprise, there's a very serious, in-depth science behind this. It is the study of psychopathology and social pathology and the correlation between the two. You know, and we have considered many authors, Dr. Keppe, Norberto Keppe, his science, all kinds of people from the scientific community, philosophical influences, theological, and even those universal ideals of the founding fathers of the United States. You know, how they used, for example, the ideas of Montesquieu in order for there not to be an accumulation of power, because the founding fathers knew that where there's an accumulation of power, there's a loss of liberty. So this question of having an enormous economic power on the planet, we've really fallen asleep in relation to this. This has nothing to do with our heritage as Americans. It's quite the opposite. So I have another interview here that my friend Rich Jones did with Sterling Allan and Cezar Soos, one of the two inventors of the Keppe motor, who has worked on this together with Dr. Keppe. And let's check out this interview. My Canadian friend Rich, he's a voiceover artist, and he's the one who runs the Stop Radio Network. We say stop, that's Stop the Destruction of the World. And you can see any of the interviews that he does on the stopradio.org. Okay, they're important. They're in-depth studies. And let's see this, just a little clip of the interview that he did with Sterling and one of the inventors of the Keppe motor. Let's run that.
Exploring a number of topics on our radio programs, and of course Dr. Keppe, who is the founder of the International Society of Analytical Trilogy, has been exploring this for many years in his many TV programs and books. But I wanted to take a little bit of time to do something specially in English, because now with the development of the Keppe motor, we have a real international interest, even heightened interest, in the work that we're doing here. In the studio with me, we have a very special guest. Sterling Allan has joined us, been here for about a week, and heading back in a couple of days or so. With the Pure Energy Systems Network, he has an incredible website. And Cezar Soos, our resident expert on Keppe's new physics.
Well, a good analogy in history is the invention of the airplane. The Wright brothers were flying around for 4 years before academia, science, finally admitted, I guess we're wrong, man can fly. You know, they were wrong on that one. And, you know, the jet turbine was invented in a garage. It wasn't invented by Boeing.
Yeah.
And if you say, we have an energy source that will make oil obsolete, you're also saying that these hotshots that are running the show right now are obsolete. And they don't want to go there.
We're kind of imprisoned in the energy grid in a way. Cezar, what's your take on that? You got a little smile on your face. This is probably a favorite topic of yours. Take us into your perspective on that. What's happening?
Well, I also agree somehow with what Sterling is saying, because the powers that be control people's mind today. Dr. Keppe, for example, he wrote a book on that called The Liberation of the People, and showing the need for the people to get conscious that we are ruled by psychopaths. And the powers that be, they do not want us to progress in consciousness. They want us to keep in a certain way. They can control it, they can live off of us.
Yeah.
They can, and so that's why they use petrol. Because here and there, everywhere we hear news about new sources of technology. And Dr. Keppe predicted that in his book, The New Physics Derived from a Disinverted Metaphysics.
Because one of the things, if they've got oil or electrical grid somewhere, they can put a meter on it or put it in a gas pump, and they can charge people to...
Yeah, Dr. Keppe, for example, he says that magnetism is an energy existing all over the universe. It's free for use. And as I'm going to talk about this later, the Keppe motor is based on these principles. So we have free energy all over. So imagine if you have your own source of energy to do whatever you want. You don't need the power anymore. You do not have to pay the taxes they want you to pay. What for? We still don't know. Because the money I pay in taxes, I don't see the return. In the same measure they say it would return to us in terms of...
So this idea actually of an energy crisis is not an energy crisis at all. We have lots of energy around.
The universe is energy. How come we are in an energy crisis? You see?
This magnetism energy, it's everywhere in the air. It's in the universe. It's all around us. Now we know how to tap into it. So the powerful people, they can't enslave us anymore. This is impossible. We need to build a workforce of ourselves, a parallel economy, let's say, to isolate the exploiters of humanity, the multinationals, to start working for ourselves, producing our own things. And in the spirit of the founding fathers of the United States, this universal ideal of having the liberty to do good for humanity and for others. This is what we want. We want to serve our fellow man. We want to build society to be something beautiful and magnificent and enchanting. And in order to do this, we need to isolate the 1% from our lives and build a beautiful life for ourselves. So you know what? Occupy your work, occupy beauty and enchantment with life. It's coming. And see you again on Analyzing the 1%.
So we occupy for change, marching to the beat of Occupy Wall Street. We're here to shout, we've been left out, we're turning up the heat. Lawns and squares across the land, people are rising hand in hand. So join the movement, take a stand. Occupy for change, we're marching to the beat of Occupy Wall Street. We're here to shout, we've been left out, we're turning up the heat. We're marching to the beat of Occupy Wall Street. We're here to shout, we've been left out, we're turning up the heat. Power to the people! Power to the people!